All right, Saints played a game. They stung. Let's talk about it.
You're listening to the Straight Up Saints podcast.
What is up, Who Dat Nation? Welcome inside another edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast. I'm your host, Chris Vogel, and as always, the Straight Up Saints podcast is brought to you by Scott McNair Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured in any kind of accident, car, truck, 18-wheeler, hurt offshore, Scott McNair handles it all. You give him a call at 504-500-1111 for a free consultation. They'll always fight for the win. You know who won't fight for the win? The Saints. They lost yet again. They're now 1-7. And today, in my opinion, might be the most dejected that I have been after watching a Saints game this year. And that's saying something because the Saints got their teeth kicked in by the Seahawks in week 3. A week ago, the Saints lost to the Chicago Bears, who I don't care what the record says. They aren't very good. And then today, Saints defense was phenomenal, in my opinion, for most of this game. Kept Baker Mayfield in check. Emeka Egbuka's been arguably the offensive rookie of the year. He got 35 receiving yards. That's it. You held the Bucs to a total of 212 yards, and it didn't matter. This game was over. The offense was a train wreck, and the Saints played 60 minutes of football and managed to have more turnovers than points. I didn't think that was possible, but it is. This team has miserable playmakers at the moment. Can't hold on to the football. Can't make life easier for their quarterbacks, regardless of which one starts, which, by the way, we are going to talk about the quarterback situation and who should start moving forward between Rattler and Shuck. But I just want to put this out there before everyone gets into what side of the camp they're on and picking a side and debating. The reality is, regardless of who the quarterback's going to be right now, whether it is Spencer Rattler or it is Tyler Shuck, they are going to get zero help from their wide receivers because they can't hold on to the freaking football. They are going to get zero help from Jawan Johnson, who just drops an open pass every single game. They are going to get zero help from the guard play that is a train wreck, to say the least. And they are going to get no help from this run game that, quite frankly, is non-existent. So we got that clear? Awesome. Now, let's talk about the quarterback situation because it's an important one for the Saints. I think when Rattler has the beginning of the year where you're losing games, but he's not turning over the football, and you're losing games because wide receivers are making mistakes and the defense isn't playing well and Blake Grupe is missing kicks, then yeah, it's easy to be like, hey, he's not the problem. And I was the leader of saying that. When you have 2 straight games where Rattler plays terribly and has 6 turnovers in 2 games, that's where the door opens up. And I think this is where people kind of misconstrue things. Like, when you look at this Saints team, I am not going to sit here and say they're 1-7 because of Spencer Rattler, because that's just a fucking lie. It's a lie. But he is not going to be the solution for this team. And I'm going to be quite honest, I don't think Tyler Shuck's going to be the solution either. I really don't. You know, I watched Tyler Shuck today. I thought he had some okay throws. You know, there was one where he led Jawan towards the outside corner. Thought that was good. Had another decent throw to Brandon Cooks. Obviously missed Shaheed for a touchdown. So horrible miss there. I didn't watch Tyler Shuck today and go, wow, that's a franchise quarterback. No. But at the end of the day, the Saints have to get an answer. I feel okay after Tyler Shuck's, Rattler's 16 starts that we're at, close to it. I feel like I've seen enough from Spencer Rattler to say he is not a franchise quarterback. He's not. He doesn't have a signature win. He doesn't have a signature moment. He doesn't have a game where he lit up a defense. It just hasn't been there. I don't think Rattler is incapable of starting. I think if I put him on a situation where you have good weapons around him, maybe he could be a decent game manager. It's possible. But he's not going to elevate a team. And I don't think Tyler Shuck's going to do it either. But you have to get that answer. You just have to get that answer. Because you watch this team today, they can't run the football. They can't throw the football. They can't protect their quarterback, all right? You have to, at some point, figure out if this guy can play football because you're probably going to have the number 1 pick. Let's be quite honest. I know the Titans are miserable. I know that the Jets are miserable. I know that the Dolphins suck, but they beat the Falcons today, so shout out to the Miami Dolphins. The Saints have to play Tyler Shuck and get an answer here. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. And the reality is this team is probably broken anyway. You're not getting a lot of help, whether you're the quarterback. And I said this 2 weeks ago. I said this when Rattler had a good game. They don't have a playmaker on this team that makes life easy for their quarterback. I see some playmakers in the league, man, they make insane plays. They make insane plays. Saints don't have that guy. Don't have him at wide receiver. Don't have him at tight end. Sure as hell don't have him at running back. The Saints don't have those playmakers. So there's a very, very, very good chance that Shuck's going to go in and he's going to suck. And quite frankly, he didn't look too sharp today either. Honestly, the numbers were pretty identical between Shuck and Rattler, which is kind of hilarious, right? 15 of 21 for Rattler. Obviously, the attempts go up at the end for Shuck because you're pretty much just playing 7-on-7 when he gets in because you're losing by double digits and you're pretty much just waiting for the clock to run out. 17 of 30, both out of an interception. Tyler Shuck had 128 yards. Rattler had 136 yards. Shuck had 12 rushing yards. Rattler had 12 rushing yards. It's the same thing. But for that reason as well, if it is the same, I'd rather just play the rookie and find out. Because I know, unfortunately, Rattler's not going to be the guy. I'll just get my answer. And I know people are going to be upset. I know people are going to be upset when we get into the comments in a couple of minutes. I'm sure there are going to be people that think the Saints failed Rattler. Reality is this team just fucking sucks right now, guys. This team is terrible. They're terrible. But I didn't watch Rattler and think, oh, man, I really think he's going to elevate a franchise. And for people who get mad about that, I watch the New England Patriots week to week, and I know they do have better coaching than the Saints. But there's no fucking way you watch Demario Douglas and Kayshon Boutte, and I know Kayshon Boutte's an LSU guy, and we all love Kayshon Boutte, but there's no way you watch that receiving core and think it's an electric wide receiving core. But Drake May elevates teams. I look at Jaden last year, what Jaden did with Washington elevates teams immediately. You usually see it early or you don't. And again, I threw everything out the window with Rattler last year because I think that was fair to him. That was a fucking shit situation last year. But he got a lot of starts already this year. He's at 8 starts. You got, let me do my math here. We got 9 games left. At some point, you gotta play Shuck. And look, reality is if you start him next week, it's probably going to be miserable. You're playing the Rams. I fully expect whoever starts that game, Saints are going to lose. Rams are coming off a bye. That defense has played really well. And then on the flip side, Stafford will probably torch the Saints, if I had to guess. But you're going to have a stretch where it's going to get a little bit easier. You know, against the Panthers, playing the Dolphins, playing the Titans, playing the Jets. Maybe you figure it out. That said, before I get into your comments, because I'm going to get into your comments in just a sec, there's 2 things. A, when it comes to quarterbacks, there are teams around the league that have gone to younger ones, and you've already immediately seen a vibe change. I know they got their ass kicked today, but like you've seen the Giants, guys. Like Jackson Dart has kind of changed the vibe a little bit of the Giants. I know that they're what are they like 2-2 with him as the starter, or whatever it is, but the vibe has switched there. Like there is a little bit of excitement, and I'm not saying the Saints are going to get that, but you got to find out. And as for positives, because I want to give a shout out to these 3 players because. You know, if the Saints had any chance to win today, it was because of them. I thought Chase Young was outstanding. I thought Kool-Aid McKinstry was really, really good against Emeka Egbuka. And I thought Alontae Taylor was also good, who, by the way, might get traded. I mean, we'll see what happens there. I think he's going to be brought up a couple of times at the trade deadline. So, you know, that's just kind of where we're at. So shout out to those 3 guys. I thought they were excellent. Other than that, man, it was a whole lot of bad. A whole lot of bad. All right, let me get into the comments here, guys. Presented by Sunshine, your hometown, John Deere, nothing runs like a deer. Going to start off with some super chats. Obviously, guys, if you're here on YouTube, make sure to like the video. We really, really greatly appreciate it at Boo Crew Media, and it just helps us out. So shout out to you guys. Going to start off here with super chat. When do we start to look at Mickey Loomis for this bullshit-ass roster that he put together in these horrible contracts? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. This is what scares me, guys. The Saints are probably going to have the #1 overall pick. And the guy who is going to make that fucking selection is a GM who sat in a room and goes, you know what? I think paying Juwan Johnson 3 years, $30 million is a great idea. That's who's going to do it. That's who's going to do it. The same guy that drafted Isaiah Foskey, the same guy that drafted Peyton Turner, the same guy that used 2 first-round picks on Marcus Davenport towards the end of Drew Brees' career, the same guy who drafted Cesar Ruiz, the same guy who drafted Kendre Miller, the same guy who has made bust after bust after bust, the same guy who drafted Trevor Penning, he's going to get the #1 overall pick, and he's going to make that selection. Which, by the way, the Saints' offensive line got bullied today. How many first-round picks are they going to have to use on this unit before it actually looks like a respectable front 5 for this team? Bullied. First-round pick on Banks, first-round pick on Fuaga, first-round pick on Ruiz, first-round pick on Penning. And don't get me wrong, I think Banks and Fuaga are the only untouchables on this roster because they are good football players. They had a bad game today. I thought the Bucs defense was outstanding, and the offensive tackle play for the Saints wasn't good today. But God, they invest a lot of resources and they get nothing out of it. Jay Hoodie with the super chat. Thank you for support, man. Says, dear Chris and other Saints fans, I'm sorry we all had to watch that crap. We got our purse snatched this game. Everybody on offense sucked. Neither quarterback is the answer. And Kamara sucks right now, 1-16. It's possible. Look, the only reason I won't say 1-16 is their schedule is really, really weak. It's a weak schedule. They play the Panthers twice. Can they win one of those? I think they really can. I genuinely think they can win one of those games. You play the Jets. I know the Jets won today. Shout out to them. That was a gutsy win. And obviously an emotional day for the Jets with, unfortunately, Nick Mangold passing away, which is just heartbreaking. But you play the Jets, that could potentially be a win. You play the Titans, they're an absolute train wreck right now. So it's not like you play the Dolphins. I know they won today, but that team's not exactly playing great football this year. So because the Saints schedule is very light, I don't know if they're going to go 1-16, but like, what the fuck does it matter at this point? Like, if they don't go 1-16, they're going to go 2-15 or 3-14. Nothing to excite us. But to get through your points though, Jay, I mean, they did kind of get their purse snatched. I think that's kind of the best way to put it. Saints got punked. The Saints got punked, man. Rashid Shaheed can't hold on to the football. Chris Olave can't hold on to the football. Juwan Johnson can't catch the football. Offensive line got punked. Defensive line and defensive general came to play. And that's a shame, right? Because you look at the score and you go, oh, Saints got blown out. Defense did their job. Today's performance by the defense should win you a football game. It should win you a football game, forcing a turnover, goal line stands. But no, it just doesn't matter when the offense is this inept, But I do agree. I don't think either quarterback is the answer. We know one isn't the answer. And I think we're going to find out fairly soon, if I had to guess, when Chuck plays, that he's not the answer either. But that's where we're trending. And as for Alvin, I keep saying this, man. I genuinely love Alvin Kamara. I got a lot of respect for his career. He really changed the franchise coming here. And at the end of the day, though, Father Time catches up to every football player. If you watch him out there, does he not look like he's lost a step or two, maybe three? So that's just where we at. Half-Life says, I swear Juwan has dropped the ball once every single fucking game this season, $30 million. Yeah, he does. He does it. Walltown Best saying, Johnson dropping the passes, the worst contract in the league. We need playmakers too many drops, no run game. Yeah, they don't have playmakers, man. They don't have playmakers. I keep saying this. Who are the guys that are going to make life easier for your team? I just don't see it. I don't see it. And you look around the league, like I'll watch the Bears today, right? Bears lost, not a good game for them. But I see like a Romo Doomsday. I'm like, oh, that's a dude. That is a dude. Or I'll look around and again, I'm not expecting much, from certain teams, but you see potential. I watched the Jets today, and I'm like, oh, Mason Taylor looks really good. Wouldn't mind seeing him in the black and gold. That's just kind of how it goes. And it's frustrating. I don't see any offensive hope for this team. I was thinking about, like, who are the guys I would not trade if I were the Saints? And obviously, Banks and Fuaga are the 1 and 2. But after that, it's Kool-Aid McKinstry, who I wouldn't trade. It's Jonas Sanker. It's Quincy Riley. Like, it's all, like, secondary players on the defense, It's no guys in the trenches defensive line-wise. And pass catchers, there's none. That's why, like, I kind of laugh when, like, the Saints are in all these trade talks, and there's whispers about Olave. There's whispers out about Shaheed. I would rather keep Olave than Shaheed. I think Olave is the better player, but neither guy is untouchable. Like, let's just be honest, guys. Do you watch either player and go, you cannot let that guy go? Like, an untouchable player should be Michael Thomas in the first 4 or 5 years of his career with the Saints, where it's like, you're watching someone special, and you can't trade that guy because he's supposed to be part of your core. Like, that to me is untouchable. I don't see it with these receivers on this team. Half-Life says, not Saints related. Jonathan Vilma is an annoying commentator for me. I don't know why. I remember last year I mentioned that. I said I don't like Vilma on commentary. I got blasted. And I think people don't understand. It doesn't mean that I don't love Jonathan Vilma. You play for that Super Bowl team, you will forever be on my list of, like, dudes I mostly love, except for Darren Sharper. We do not name that man, even though I just did. But today was rough. I mean, it's the fourth quarter, and Jonathan Vilma's arguing that the Saints should play Rattler next week, but if Rattler has a turnover, they should bench him. Well, what the fuck is the point in that then? If Rattler's going to play where he knows, hey, if I turn over the football, I'm benched, you know what you're going to get? Check down. That's all you're going to get. You're going to get captain check down for an entire game. So I don't understand that for Vilma's case, and he knows football, so he should know better. If the Saints are in a situation where they are one more turnover away from Rattler to going to Shuck, then you just go to Shuck at that point. To me, I didn't understand what the hell Vilma was trying to say there. Xavier says, I'm okay with trying the Shuck experiment at this point. See if he can grow weekly. Rattler's a certified backup, and there isn't one playmaker left on either side. I think that's fair. I think that's fair for sure. You know, I definitely, and I think that's where we're heading, to be quite honest. Jacob says the Saints have a bottom 5 receiving core. They might, man. They might. And not, by the way, it's unfair for me to say it today because he had a rough game today. And I think saying it today is kind of unfair for me, but I'm going to say it just because I've heard the discourse online and it just baffles me. There's a lot of people for some reason who think like you should not trade Rashid Shaheed, like he's untradeable. Why? And I like Rashid Shaheed. I've said so many times, like he was a gem of an undrafted free agent for this team. But none of these guys right now, do I watch them play and go, all right, when the Saints get good again in like 5 years, they're going to be at the forefront. No. So I'm okay with trading them. Thanks, Mickey and dumbass Gale. We're officially the laughing stock of the fucking league. They're right there. You know, lucky for the Saints, the NFL usually has like 4 or 5, maybe 6, not going any higher than that. 5 shitty teams. And I think the Saints will be able to share that spotlight with other shitty teams. But yeah, it's all just bad right now, you know? How the fuck is our O-line so bad? I don't know. I don't know. I said it at the top, man. How many offensive linemen are they going to draft in the first round and this team still can't protect the quarterback? It makes no sense. Makes no sense. Well, why do we refuse to run the ball? I don't think they like their options. I mean, we watched the Eagles last year. Granted, you know, I think we watched the Eagles last year, and granted they have better personnel than the Saints. They were just running people over. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't think Kellen Moore suddenly is thinking, I don't want to run the football. I think he's thinking, we can't run the football. And a lot of it's personnel related, I think. Why the hell would Johnson get a target in the end zone with his slippery-ass fingers? I don't know, man. I do not know. Xavier says everyone should be expendable outside of AK. There's no point in signing either wide receiver because they aren't wide receiver ones. And your quarterback isn't in this upcoming draft. I think that's fair. Get AK out of here too. That's not going to happen. I don't disagree with you, but it's not going to happen. And D23 says, I really don't agree with Vilma saying they should go back to Rattler next week. We've seen it for 8 weeks. Time to move on. Let's see what Chuck can do. He made a few nice throws. I agree with you. That's 100% where I'm at right now. Cliff says, love AK and his contributions over the years, but his time here is through. Don't disagree with that. I mean, they're not going to move him, but he's done. He's so done. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he retires this offseason. Genuinely, I just don't see it. Manuel says, no one on this team can hang onto the damn ball. I've been a big Spence advocate, but at this point, we're 1-7. Not all on him, but we drafted a quarterback. Let's see what he's got going forward. I think that's the right way to put it. And I agree 100%. I don't watch the Saints and go, excuse me, guys, Rattler's to blame. I don't think that at all. Quite frankly, he held on to this job longer than I thought he was going to, especially because the beginning of the season was rough schedule-wise. And I know this roster's bad. And look, I thought the Patriots game, he played really well. I mean, we go back 2 weeks ago. I said that was the best game he ever played. But when you're turning over the football at that clip, a change is going to be made. It's just kind of how the NFL goes. And it sucks, but it's a brutal league. And I said this when, early in the season, Rattler has shown enough as a quarterback that he will be in the NFL for a long time. You don't think teams would want him as their backup, knowing, hey, if my starter goes down and Rattler has to start 3-4 weeks, he can't hold down the fort? He absolutely could. So he'll be in the league. D23 says the Bucs don't strike me as a great team. For the most part, if our offense didn't implode, they embarrassed themselves on the goal line. I suspect they'll get shown up by a real team. I mean, they did last week. Got shown up by the Lions. So I agree with you, D23. I agree. Margaret says I would rather Shuck than Rattler. Shuck looked better than Rattler with no practice with the ones. Need to trade Olave and Shaheed for draft picks. I don't know if they'll trade away both. I do believe one's going to get traded, though. I do believe one's going to get traded. By the way, we have this from Kellen Moore on the quarterback situation. I'm not into flip-flopping quarterbacks. We do have to make some decisions on offense in the next 48 hours. We'll do this collectively. Okay. I mean, look, if that's the thing, if you're not interested in flip-flopping quarterbacks, I think it's pretty simple. Start the rookie for the rest of the year, see how it goes, and get your answer. Do you need a quarterback in next April's draft? Answer will probably be yes, but you got to figure it out. Also, they guaranteed Shuck's freaking contract. You got to play the guy. You got to play the guy and see. I was going to say kid, but he's an old-ass rookie. Cliff says, at this point, if Shuck's old ass ain't ready after 10 years of college, he ain't going to be ready, and I'm tired of defending Rattler after a performance like today. I think that's fair. HobC735 says, Juwan drops too many easy passes. That's for damn sure. for damn sure. Let me get through more here. Logan says, I feel like Staley felt like Kellen felt during their time at LA today. Fair enough. It's probably possible. I thought Staley did a really good job today, guys. I really did. I thought this defense was humming. This is probably, in my opinion, the best that the Saints defense played. I know that they forced a lot of turnovers against the Giants, but a lot of those turnovers were like just, the Giants were just playing loose with the football. Today, I thought the Saints brought like a mean streak to this game. And just rough, man. It's time to fully commit to the rebuild. Trade as much as you can for picks and let all the young guys play more snaps. I agree. I want to see Stutzman play more. I want to see Shuck play. I want to see Devin Neal play. Play these freaking rookies because let's be honest, it's not like the guys ahead of them on the depth chart are doing anything, you know? That's another thing. I thought we might see Devin Neal a little bit today. Absolutely not. So that sucks. Just disgusting display. I turned the Saints off for the first time since Katrina. Stings the senses to behold. What a mess this team is and no answers incoming. I think that's the tough part, right? Like I think some teams you can maybe see a little glimmer of hope, that light at the end of the tunnel. I don't see it right now with the Saints. I don't. And I'll be here through it all, guys. You guys know how I am. This team can lose every game. We're going to be here to talk about it. But I don't see it with the Saints. I don't. There's a couple of teams where they just seem hopeless right now. The Jets, the Saints, and I'm going to go the Dolphins. And the reason I'm not putting the Titans is at the end of the day, if Cam Ward shows flashes this year, you're hoping he gets paired with the right coach, and that is your path to getting back on track. What is the Saints' path? The roster isn't good. We don't know if they have a head coach, to be quite honest, because I'm giving Kellen Moore grace. I said when he was hired, I was going to give him the full year before I make my final judgment. But look, man, there are some scary things with Kellen Moore because this is a soft-ass football team. The offense gets punked around like there's no tomorrow, and that's on the coach, to be quite honest. So that does scare me. And I hate the roster. I hate who's running the roster. It's just brutal. Got another super chat here. Thank you for the support. Thank you. We really, really do appreciate it. Says, I get the frustrations on AK, but to give him some grace, but I think it's hard to care when the front office don't. With Kellen Moore being an offensive guru, how can you fail to use a dual threat running back? I don't know. Look, I think I don't think you're wrong. Like, I think the AK discussion is interesting, right? Because obviously they're not losing games because of Alvin Kamara. He's not helping them, obviously. And he's had a horrible year. By his standards, it's been a horrible year. Part of it is he slowed down. I also could argue that they just stopped using Alvin as a receiver a couple years ago. I think once Drew was gone, the Saints just really minimized their usage for Alvin as a pass catcher. And I don't understand why. I thought that was what made Alvin so exciting. And look, man, I just don't know. I really just don't know what to say about this offense. Part of it's O-line. I just don't think they have the juice either. And I said this before Kendrick got hurt. I thought Kendrick was their most explosive back, and I just don't see it with Alvin. I just don't. Trey Gift with the super chat says, how long is Kellen Moore's leash? That's a great question. Are you asking me or you're asking the front office? Because he's going to get 2 years full, in my opinion. I think he's going to obviously get this year, and I think he's going to get next year. If next year looks like this year, he'll be fired. That's my guess. As for me personally, Saints got to start showing me something. And I'm not saying wins. It can't look like this. They cannot get punked for 2 straight weeks. They got punked last week, a lot of turnovers, and they couldn't stop the run. This week, the defense plays well, and the offense got bitched around like there was no tomorrow. Absolutely bitched around. Olave's getting the ball ripped out of his hands. Shaheed can't go to the ground without holding onto the football. It's rough. So Kellen's going to get 2 years minimum, but fan-wise, if this year continues to be this abysmal, it is not going to be long before people start to turn. That's just my opinion. Ed says, give Rattler one more start. It's possible. It's possible that's what they do. But, man, for me, I would have a weird feeling. I don't know if I'd feel good about it if the Saints go put Rattler in against the Rams. He kind of just gets rocked, and they're like, all right, Shuck, it's your show from the rest of this point forward. It's like, all right. I mean, I think whoever plays quarterback next week's probably going to get rocked regardless. Willie says, Chris doesn't even want to do a post-game show today. I was taking my time to collect my thoughts. I was like, oh, shit, I think I'm taking a little bit too much time. It's a bad look on my end. But now, look, I still love doing this. Genuinely, I say it every time. It's not me blowing smoke up anyone's ass. I love talking with you guys after these games are over. I was going to say win or lose, but let's be real. It's always after a loss. But no, days like today's, it's tough, man. Days like today are tough. What do you walk away from? Like, what do you walk away from this game feeling good about? I said Chase Young was great today, right? All right. He's not going to be part of the future of this team outside of the next 2 seasons. That's about it. Alontae Taylor might get traded. I thought he played well today. And, Kool-Aid was really, really good. Awesome. Awesome performance from him. And he's part of the future. But, like, no offensive, takeaways to feel good about. Linda says this season proves Carr didn't deserve the hate from Saints fans. Chuck, Rattler, Carr, Winston, Dalton, Brees cannot win with those teams. Here's the thing. No disrespect, Linda. I get what you're saying. The thing about Derek Carr, I think like where there's this disconnect here, it's not about Carr being a bad quarterback. Carr was not a bad quarterback. The problem is Carr got paid a lot of money. And with that money comes expectations. And the Saints didn't do anything with him. They went, what was it, 9-8? And then last year they sucked, even though he missed a lot of time. I think Derek Carr is a middle-of-the-road quarterback. Saints paid him to take them over the hump. And with the easiest schedule in the league 2 seasons ago, they didn't get into the playoffs. So that's just where the frustration comes from. And obviously it doesn't help that Carr was chirping back at Saints fans. Jared says, do you think Rattler's done for the year? My guess is he will be, but I don't know. I can't say for certain. The Saints might go back to him. Either way, like, whatever it is, Rattler's going to be in this league, man. Rattler's going to be in this league. He's shown enough to be a premier backup, in my opinion. But I don't know. I think with Kellen Moore, like, he's been very adamant about, like, sticking to his plan. My guess is they start Shuck and they just go from Shuck, here on out. But we'll see. Anthony says, stop buying tickets to this trash team. I mean, it's just kind of how it is. Cedric says Saints need to go out and get a free agent QB in the offs. Are you saying free agent QB? Is that what you're going for? You wrote OB, but unless I'm just a moron right now, which is possible. JJ is not even looking at the ball in the end zone. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not throwing to Jawan in the end zone after that. Caleb says Rattler was used as a scapegoat. No way around it. I don't know about that. As a coach, right? Your defense is playing well. Your offense is in the shitter, and your quarterback doesn't have it on this said day, and your quarterback didn't have it last week as well. I don't know. I think most coaches would have done the same thing. And by the way, guys, we saw the same thing with the Jets last week. Jets benched Justin Fields, put Tyrod Taylor in, because at some point you just kind of reach your breaking point, and I think it's unfair to the other guys on the roster if you're just running the same thing over and over again. I don't – there's a difference between, like, blaming Rattler for the season and saying he hasn't had it for the last 2 weeks. You make the change. I think that's kind of – I think it's the latter. That's just where I'm at. Jack says the Saints should give everyone that attended the game free season tickets. I don't know. Do you guys want to watch more Saints football? Caleb says he didn't play terrible today, bro. He was 15 to 21 for 136 passing yards before he got benched. Bro, the team is garbage. Look, dude, I'm going to go back to what happened before. The pick six was on him. I know everyone's like, oh, great defensive play, and it was. So shout out to, what was it? Was it Anthony Nelson? I forgot his first name. But shout out to him. He made a great play. But Rattler's holding on to the ball a little too long there. The ball's got to come out to Stoll. It's his read. He's open. Rattler sees it. He just hesitated for some reason. And that split second cost him. And when you make a mistake like that, after your defense gets a goal line stand, it's a heightened mistake. Like, not all mistakes are created equal. They're just not. If you throw an interception all the way down the field and like, yeah, all right, it's a pick, change of possession, but you threw it 40 fucking yards. It's a little different than when you have a moment like that where the play's there, it's there to be made, and it just isn't, And I get the frustration. I get the frustration that people who are very, very happy, or what should I say? The ones that really like Rattler, I get the frustration of feeling like, oh, this is all being blamed on him. I don't view it that way. I really don't. I don't think he's to blame for them being 1-7, but I don't think he's the solution. I think it's okay to say both. Jack says Chuck didn't deserve that interception all on Olave. Look, what's fair is fair. It wasn't a great throw. But again, it goes back to what I said during the Patriots game. When guys were kind of selling on Rattler, they do not have playmakers that make life easier for their quarterbacks. They don't. They don't have a dominant wide receiver. They don't have a game-changing tight end. They don't have a running back who can take the ball from point A to point B, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. They don't have that type of guy. They don't. So it's tough. It really is tough. Jack says, I didn't realize that the Carr Jameis debate was so much better than Rattler Shuck. I'm tired of the Rattler Shuck one because, like, neither dude is probably it. The Carr Jameis one never made sense to me because Carr was getting paid $40 million. Like, the debate was done right there. And Jameis is who Jameis is, as much as I do love Jameis and how entertaining he is. But this one makes zero sense to me, you know? At the end of the day, bad football is bad football. And the same Saints fans who want Pete Werner bench when he's not playing well are also the same fans who are like, oh, you can't bench Spencer Rattler. Why the fuck can you not? He had 6 turnovers in 6 quarters. So, again, I'm not saying that he's to blame for them being 1-7 because he's not. But goddamn, guys, if you don't think he deserved to be benched today, then I don't know what we're going to do. The fumble early on was loose by him, waste of a good possession. He had the same fumble on the opening drive for the Saints last week against the Bears. So when you start making the same mistakes, the coach is like, well, you're not learning. And that's what kind of happens, man. That's what happens. John says, now we know why Carr retired and left $30 million on the table. Entire team is trash. You know, I'm going to say this once. Guys, and I'm going to be triggered right now. So I'm willing to take I'm triggered. I'm freaking out. You can put it in. You can make fun of me all you want. I don't want to hear about Derek fucking Carr anymore. Derek Carr is a fucking loser who's never won a single playoff game in his God-for-fucking-saken career. He went to the Saints, had the easiest schedule in the league, and he pissed his pants. And he blamed Olave, and he blamed Derek McCoy, and he blamed Michael Thomas. And the reality is Derek Carr is a spoiled fuck who never won anything in the NFL. And the reason he left the Saints is because the moron got injured in the offseason, okay? And the reality is no quarterback leaves $30-40 million on the table. The Saints were like, how do you want to play this? Because you got injured and it wasn't on company time. That's what happened. So when Derek Carr plays next year, because the Weasel we'll discuss this, John. But get the fuck out of here with Derek Carr, dude. The Saints are 1-7, and I promise you with Derek Carr, whoop-de-fucking-do, they would have been 2-5. How much better is that? Wow. 2-6. I'm so much happier. Derek Carr, get the fuck out of here, man. No one likes Derek Carr. The only people who like Derek Carr are either Raiders fans, because they're a bunch of losers too, so they hold on to that one good season Derek Carr had before he broke his fucking leg, okay? Or the Saints fans that, let's be real, you like Derek Carr because he fits whatever aesthetic you want. That's really what it is. Because Derek Carr ain't do a damn thing for the Saints that people should be happy about. Come on, get the fuck out of here with Derek Carr. Anyway, my rant's over. Jack says Jonathan Taylor's got to be MVP frontrunner. That's a playmaker, Jack. That's a playmaker. That is a playmaker. Jonathan Taylor's awesome. Another 3-touchdown game. My fantasy team's absolutely loving it. Colts look so freaking good. It is actually insane. Coaching and just being in the right situation, right? Like before when they named Daniel Jones a starter, everyone was kind of trolling them, whatever. This Colts team offensively, 38 points against the Titans. Let's see what they did the last couple weeks, just to put in perspective. They had 38 points this week. They had 38 points last week. They had 31 points 2 weeks ago. They had 40 points 3 weeks ago. This Colts offense is rolling. Daniel Jones has looked great. Tyler Warren looks awesome as a rookie. Jonathan Taylor, in my opinion, should be the pick for MVP. You know what? You didn't give it to Saquon last year when it should have gone to him. You didn't give it to Christian McCaffrey 2 years ago when it didn't go to him. Give the running backs their respect and give it to Jonathan Taylor as of now, okay? I know it won't go to him. It'll go to a quarterback because we've made it a quarterback award. But we're going to go a third straight year where I think a running back deserves to get MVP and they're not going to. And just to put Jonathan Taylor's skill and his production into perspective, he had 153 rushing yards today. He ran the ball 12 times. And he had 153 rushing yards. The dude is a freak of nature. Pleasure watching him. Just an absolute pleasure watching him. Sage 41 says this whole team is ass. They don't have the QB. They need to see what they have in Shuck. I agree. I totally agree. So, that's just kind of where I'm at. Trey Gibbs says, I agree with the Vilma commentator hate. And I by the way, I love Vilma. He seems like an awesome dude, but I don't know. I just thought it was so weird. Like if he said, hey, play Rattler, see how the next couple games go, then you switch back to Shuck, I would have been no fine. But he literally said, if he throws another pick, bench him. Could you imagine, like, as a coach, all right, son, I'm putting you back in there, but one more turnover and that's it. Yeah, that's not going to work. Eddie King said, could have had Trey Harris, Will Johnson, Mason Taylor, Harold Fannin Jr. Instead, we got Tyler Shuck. Well, let's see. No, that's also why you got to play Shuck, by the way. I don't feel great when I see Mason Taylor and, Harold Fannin. And by the way, just to talk about that position group, just because that's kind of been a big thing. the tight end play from this rookie class has been insane. Like Gatson for the Chargers is on a freaking heater right now. So it sucks, right? Like you see all these like younger tight ends playing really well. And then us Saints fans are stuck watching, fucking Jawan Johnson. Like that's not fun at all. It's sure as hell ain't fair. Kevin says, I just don't understand why AK would want to stay on this sorry ass team. He should have left it for 2021. I don't know. Like I do think he loves New Orleans deeply, loves the community, loves the fans. When you've been at one place for a long time, I can understand why you'd want to stay. And he's been through the years where they tried to, contend. And the Saints have been through plenty of deep runs with Alvin. So I don't know. Ring chasing is a little different in the NFL compared to NBA. NBA, all these guys at the end of the career, they're ring chasing. NFL, I don't know. Kind of tough, man. Kind of tough. Caleb says, OMFG, Brian Kelly finna get fired. I mean, has that happened yet? I know they were having discussions about his buyout, which, by the way, the biggest scam in America has to be college football coaches. They get fired. They get paid $50 million on their way out. What a life that is, But yeah, I mean, the scene yesterday, seeing Texas A&M kind of swag surfing in Baton Rouge is, to me, I've never seen a more fireable scene than that. And look, Brian Kelly's a solid football coach. He's not fit what LSU needs. And the reality is for LSU, it is a championship or bust program. You haven't even been close with Brian Kelly, unfortunately. So it's going to happen. It's just these buyouts are insane, man. Selecting a running back behind this offensive line be a mistake? Is that what you're going for? Let me know, Mac. Brandon says, mock draft season, Ruben Bain or Fernando Mendoza, we fucking suck. I can't get a read on these quarterbacks because part of me, truthfully, guys, part of me really likes watching. I'm not saying taking him early, and I'm not even saying taking a quarterback this year, but I really, really do like Ty Simpson from Alabama. I'm not saying taking him. I'm just saying, I watch Mendoza, and I think Mendoza's good, but I don't see a big gap between Mendoza and Simpson. I love Lenore Sellers' talent, but he hasn't played as well as I thought he would this year. But look, Saints need talent elsewhere, right? So, Carnell Tate from Ohio State, love a guy like him. I like Mekhi Lemon from USC, but he's a smaller wide receiver. So I think Carnell taking a 6'3" wide receiver would be good for this team. Edge-wise, though, Ruben Baines look good. I also wouldn't mind a guy like Reese from Ohio State. I think Arvell Reese is really, really talented. Also, you could twist my arm and say, hey, how about Caleb Downs? And the thought of Caleb Downs and Jonas Sanker is pretty damn awesome. But either way, Saints need good football players. They really, really need good football players. Got another comment here. Tyler Shuck on if he feels ready to start 100%. I feel ready every single week. All right, I mean, that's what you want to hear. Also says, my mindset is I'm going to attack no matter what. Says that he's learned a lot from Rattler and offenses around the league. All right. I mean, we'll see what happens if he gets in. Brandon says, I think you go BPA pass rusher. Carnell Tate can't be first overall, though. Yeah, no, of course not. Of course not. But, if you twisted my arm and said, what if you trade back into the first round and he's there, I would not mind it. But obviously, first overall, no. First overall, you're probably looking quarterback or edge rusher or Caleb Downs. That's kind of, in my opinion, I think that's where it would be. But who knows? Maybe the Saints will draft an offensive lineman for the 70th year in a row because they love taking offensive linemen. So we'll see. Let's try to keep it rolling. Caleb says, why did Devin Neal have 0 carries, man? I wish I knew. 0 carries. It's so frustrating. You want to see this young talent. Go out there and make some plays, and you just don't get to, man. Penning's got to go. Speaking of the O-line, yeah, he had one series today where they had 3 snaps. He got flagged on 2 of the 3, and I was like, yo, this is just not working. The only thing I'll say for Penning today, and this does not help him as much as it just makes the rest of the O-line look bad. The whole O-line was a train wreck. The whole O-line was an absolute wreck. And it's tough to put it all on Penning, but Penning ain't the guy. I think that's fair to say. Ryan says, keep drafting O-line. They're going to have to. Anthony says his team is soft. Yep. Caleb says Spencer Rattler goes to another team, will be a franchise quarterback. Mark my words. I don't know. It depends where he goes and depends if he gets better at certain things. I do think Rattler, and this is what has separated from him taking that next step, in my opinion, because he's developed from last year to this year. No question about it. He's taken less sacks. He's been better with his footwork in the pocket and both on the move. I think the one thing Rattler has to get better at, and if he does this, and I think he will be a starting quarterback, is the ability to throw guys open and see it before it's there. So I think, unfortunately for Rattler, he's got to see a guy open before he makes the throw a lot of times. Not every time, but a lot of times. I think if Rattler gets better anticipation, and I don't know if he'll be able to learn that. A lot of guys just have it. Then I think he'll take that next step. But if the argument is Rattler would look better on another team, then yeah, absolutely. If I put Rattler, I mentioned the Colts. Obviously, Daniel Jones is better than Rattler, and anyone who thinks otherwise, that's crazy. But look, if I put Rattler with Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman and Tyler Warren, yeah, it's going to look better than what it looks like on the Saints. I don't think that's a question, right? Saints do not have a good roster right now. The question is how much can he elevate? Can Rattler do like a Mac Jones job where you come in on a good team and you win a couple games? I do think so. Can he become the next Baker Mayfield though? Which is funny because RG brought this up in the chat. I don't know. I think Baker's a better player, obviously, and Baker was a number 1 overall pick, so obviously there's more upside with a guy like that. But there's no doubt in my mind, obviously with better talent, he would look better. And I think that would go for Shuck as well. The Saints don't have a lot of talent. I just don't think that right now he is going to be a franchise guy. And that's okay. There's way less franchise quarterbacks in the league than the amount of teams, obviously. I look around the league, there's maybe like 5 quarterbacks that I feel like you put them anywhere, they're going to succeed. It's usually a very small number. But it's also the hardest position to play. So that's just where we're at. Trey Gift says, do you think Aaron Glenn regrets his decision? I don't know. You mean to like turn down the Saints? Is that what? Because then I don't think so. I would say Aaron Glenn's got to get it going though, because look, they won today. Big win for them. They play the Browns next game. You got to start winning those because the Jets are going to, like the Saints, be picking top 3, top 4. And Aaron Glenn has to show the Jets that they're comfortable with the number 1 overall pick being in his hands and him coaching that player. So look, today was a step in the right direction for them because they got a win. But Aaron Glenn's defense also gave up 38 points. So I don't know. I don't know if Aaron Glenn regrets his decision. It's always great to be a coach. He'll get a defensive coordinator job if he were to be fired. And speaking of fired, see Matt Moscana's reporting that Brian Kelly's been fired. Is that official yet? We'll see. I'll see if there's anything else that comes up. Obviously, LouisianaSports.net's got their sources, so I'm not denying them. But we'll see if that comes up. But could be a wild day for football, Louisiana football in general. Margaret says Campbell's first few years were rough too. Morph's play calling is awful. Yeah, look, there's a difference to it, right? Dan Campbell, the Lions team was bad. They won 3 games. But there was an identity and there was a culture. The Lions played physical football and they fought in every game. Saints, beginning of the year, were fighting in every game. The last 2 weeks, it's been a soft football team. And look, I think a lot of times, especially in this league, it falls on the coach. And again, this could just be a really, really rough stretch for the Saints. They could get out of it at some point. I'm not denying that. But I got to see more fight from this team. I don't see it right now. And I'm not saying that Kellen Moore's got to turn into Dan Campbell because you can't fake it. Who you are is who you are. And Kellen Moore, by nature, is a more laid-back coach. But it is tough watching the Saints right now and seeing them kind of just play this brand of football where it's like, whatever. Game's almost over. Let's just get to the finish line. It really bothers me, Too Short says they have to get AK more involved in the passing game to keep the opposing defense off track. The problem is when they use AK in the passing game, it's just like a check down. That's all it is, It's a check down and keep it moving, and it's quite frustrating. Caleb says, if I'm the Saints and get the number 1 pick, I would trade down for extra picks. I don't really see groundbreaking prospects, especially in our position right now. We need extra talent so bad. I don't disagree with you, Caleb. I'm a big fan of like the Saints stockpiling assets. And, imagine you trade down from 1, you're still in the top 10, but you get a first-round pick for the year after. Now we have a plan, right? It's about the 2026 and 2027 draft. And that's the problem. You got to think of it this way because the Saints are a long way from contending. But, that's just kind of where I'm at. I'm in agreement with you. I just don't know if they will do that, Captain Deluxe says the rebuild is not even close to starting. That's another, aspect of it too, right? Like this team is far away from being there. Wow. So Brian Kelly does get fired right now. Now Pete Thamel's confirming it. Oh, what a fucking day for sports, huh? D23 says Carr wasn't a bad quarterback. He was just a douche and immediately unlikable. I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. Anthony says, I say in the next 3 seasons, we'll be where we need to be, nice and sturdy. Hope so. I hope so, man. Because right now, It is not fun to watch. It is not fun to watch. Only coach I like right now is Staley. He's got the defense churning. The defense starting to play a little bit better. Last week, the run defense was terrible, though. So, I can't act like that hasn't happened. But today, the defense was great. Goal line defense was good. Kool-Aid really held his matchup well against Emeka Egbuka. Chase Young was outstanding. But, what does it matter, right? Defense played well, and offense shat the bed. Offense really shat the bed, and that's just kind of where we're at right now. It's really frustrating. No QBs this year, please. We'll see. Look, I think a lot of it comes down to Shuck, and part of the reason why they probably got to play Shuck, you got to get an answer. If they go into the offseason, they don't have an idea if Shuck is even capable of playing in the NFL. I think that's probably the worst thing you could do as a franchise, especially because you took him top 40. Because that 40th pick could have been, I talked about tight end play, could have been a Mason Taylor, who had a pretty nice touchdown grab today, pretty much mossed a defender. So that's just kind of where we're at, guys. 1-7. This team is rough right now. I'd like to say it would get better, but I can't promise you guys that. So I'm not going to, I'm going to reserve judgment on the coaching staff, specifically Kellen, until I see what they can do with a better roster in the future. I think that's fair. I want this team to have some type of identity, though. I think they're just playing football. And I know it sounds like a weird, stupid thing for me to say because no shit, they're playing football. But what I mean by that is they're kind of just going through the motions right now. And this team doesn't do anything particularly well. They don't throw the football well. They don't run the football well. They don't protect the quarterback. They don't make plays for the quarterback. The quarterback doesn't make that many plays. The defense isn't great at rushing the passer. Secondary's been on and off. Special teams has been a wreck most of the times. Blake Grupe went 1 for 1 today, so woohoo. But other than that, not a whole lot. And I get it, man. It is, and I agree with you, by the way. It is definitely hard. It is hard to have an identity when this team's ass. But, I go back and I look at the 2021 Lions? Was it the 2021 Lions? And, that team, granted, they still had talent, right? They had young young version of Amon-Ra St. Brown, young Jameson. Did they have Jameson Williams yet? Actually, I don't think they had Jameson Williams yet. But, Jamal Williams was there, former Saint. What a fucking treat that was. But, that team didn't have Laporta, didn't have Jameson Williams yet. Amon-Ra St. Brown was playing well, but again, young player at that stage in his career. I don't know. Like, I look at the Saints, and I'm not saying that they got to be great because obviously this team sucks, but I would like to them have one calling card, just one calling card. That's all I'm asking for. Massive rebuild will take time and more needs to be given time. We're shit and going to be shit all season, but he needs time and some better players. I don't disagree with that. And that's why I'm going to give him the whole year before I make my opinion. I think there's probably a lot of people that are going to jump off ship already and they might end up being right. But I'm going to wait. D23 says it's either penalties, turnovers, missed kicks, poor defense, or all of them. Yeah, that is their calling card for sure. I think the most disappointing thing so far has been the O-line. Most of the offense / identity issues can be traced back to that. Yeah, I think that's fair. Before the season started, I talked about it, So I do my Monday spots with Jordy Holtberg. We talk about the Saints. We're going to have one tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Central. And before the season started, I was like, hey, look, if the Saints are going to be fun to watch or competitive, the O-line's got to just be maulers. And I thought they had the talent for the O-line to be maulers. And, a lot of first-round talent was there. Now, no more Eric McCoy for the rest of the season. Huge blow. Guard play hasn't been great. Offensive tackles were abysmal today, but I'm going to be honest, that has not been a current thing for them. The tackle play, for the most part, has been good. Hence why I believe Banks and Fuaga are the only untouchables on this roster. But the calling card for this team was supposed to be great O-line play, in my opinion, because they've invested so much talent there. But it's not clicking. It's not. And this is kind of the product you get. You get a team that you have more turnovers than penalties, more turnovers than points today. You can't run the football. You don't even try to run the football at this point. You can't protect your quarterback. You don't have the pass catchers out there. And look, trade deadline's coming up. Trade deadline's, to be exact, 16 days away. I'm an idiot. It's not 16 days away. The trade deadline is 9 days away. I can't count. The trade deadline is 9 days away. This team's got to be aggressive. This team has to try to move Pete Werner. They should try to move Carl Granderson. They should try to move one if not both wide receivers, I would try to move Rashid Shaheed. If I saw Brandon Cooks was mentioned in trade rumors, if you could get a fucking 7th round pick, ship him. And you know, at this point, wouldn't Brandon Cooks rather play on a contender? So Cooks, Pete Werner, Carl Granderson, one of Shaheed or Olave. If the offer's good, I'm moving those 4 players. And then we'll have a discussion about Alontae Taylor if the offer's good. Because truthfully, guys, Alontae is going to get a big contract. I'm talking 5-year, maybe $90 million, like around that ballpark. Do you want to pay that? I don't know. So look, I would maybe entertain calls for Alontae. And, if the conversation and the talks surrounding Olave are interesting, then you have that discussion. But it does seem like they want to extend him. And I think Olave is a good football player, so I'm not going to switch up. But I would see what the offers are like. But this team's got to make moves before the deadline. They got to be sellers, and we'll see if they do that. But anyway, guys, we've been here for about 50 minutes. Not much more I can say. You guys have been outstanding today. I really can't thank you guys enough for, the viewership today, the comments. You guys have been really, really great. And just want to give you guys a shout out again. I know this season has not been easy for us Saints fans, but we're going to kind of keep on being troopers and see how next week goes against the Rams. Because, if this today wasn't bad, it could get a whole lot worse. And we'll see. Either way, guys, we'll be here to cover it. We'll have a podcast tomorrow morning here at Buccaneers Media, so make sure to subscribe to get that. We'll be talking about the quarterbacks, of course. What do they do with Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler? So we'll have a podcast dropping tomorrow morning on that. We'll probably have some more short form content. Also, if you guys haven't already on TikTok, Straight Up Saints, I've been putting more content there as well. So come through on that if you haven't. And obviously Twitter. You guys know I'm always on there. So I will get back to tweeting in about 2 minutes from now. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Really greatly appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. Hope you guys have a great start to your week. And let's hope this gets better. Either way, we'll be here to cover it on the Straight Up Saints podcast, the destination for the Who Dat Nation.